Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and salutations to the Akim who are tuning to these videos. And in this video, I wanted to read 10 verses out of the book of Joel, chapter 2. And as it says here in the blue letter, the header here, it says, the terrible visitation. And this was a prophecy that Joel was speaking and sounding this alarm. But not only him, but Ezekiel, Esdras, all of these men of the scriptures, the prophets, were speaking about that terrible visitation when the Heavenly Father sends Yahweh Shai to deliver us out of the land of the north, this place that is our captivity, America, which is known as Babylon the Great. And this is going to be a very great deliverance, but also very similar to when we left Egypt and Pharaoh and all of his armies were demolished, destroyed, and utterly done away with, to the point where all these nations were hearing about what happened to the land of Egypt and how the Heavenly Father delivered his chosen people, the Israelites, out of that place from their bondage. And so this terrible visitation that Joel is speaking about goes hand in hand to what is spoken about in Revelation, the third world woe. And so when you read this, you got to understand the spirit too that is being spoken about in each verse also, because all these precepts are very useful for a lot of topics, but actually going into the chapter itself, it paints a very, very immaculate picture of the end times and how these thermonuclear missiles are going to devour this place. And I got precepts to back those things up. So I'm going to start this off by reading in Joel 2:1. It says, "Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain." So this message is really only for Israel. And we know, whether they hear or whether they forbear, that the elect are going to obtain this word. The rest, the 2/3, are going to disregard this message. As we're blowing the trumpet as watchmen, just like what happened in the book of Ezekiel or in the book of Habakkuk, we are making this vision plain upon tables. And those who have ears to hear, they're going to run when they hear that noise. They're going to run when they read it. They're going to understand that this is prophetic. This is something that you should take heed to. Blowing this trumpet and sounding an alarm in my holy mountain. And this is not an alarm of rejoicing. This is a sound of basically alertness, to be alarmed. I'm going to continue on. It says, "Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord, Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai, cometh, for it is nigh at hand." So continuing on in verse 2, it says, "A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong, there hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations." Because this is going to be the world to end all wars, And it's going to be a day of darkness and gloominess. And has in other scriptures, like in the book of Amos, it speaks about how the Heavenly Father doesn't change. This is the same person who destroyed the armies of Egypt. And also how he was basically speaking about how it's going to be a day of darkness and gloominess. Really, to what end is it to these people in the world who are supposedly Christian? They don't really understand what they worship. The Heavenly Father is behind all of these atrocities, and he's going to be the main one segueing this destruction here in Babylon, in America. So that's going to be a day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. A great people and strong there hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. And the mighty men of Esau, a lot of them are going to forbear to fight, but the majority of them are going to be sent to the Middle East, the Valley of Yehoshaphat, to fight the rest of these heathens who are basically taking up arms against Esau. And you go into the next chapter in Joel 3, it goes into that. It goes into the details about all these heathen nations and how they're gearing up for this world war. this third world war, there ain't going to be no wars after that. So I'm going to continue on in verse 3, verse 3, it says, a fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness, yea, and nothing shall escape them. And now what is referencing here, how this land is as the Garden of Eden, because if you look at America, from coast to coast, from California to Florida, Colorado, all these states, it's a big land, but it's also very beautiful. It wasn't really destroyed up until when Esau stepped his red foot here and started causing havoc. But you got a lot of diversity in this land. You got the redwoods, deserts, mountains, and all those things. That this land is basically a very beautiful continent, if you will. So before all of this chaos, it was as if this place was just the Garden of Eden. Nature flourishing to an extent, of course, because Esau, Edom is in rulership. But that's really why the Heavenly Father is going to send this fire that's going to devour this place. Because behind it, the Garden of Eden. But right after it, it's just going to be stubble. It's going to be nothing left. And you can read in the book of Isaiah 13 or in the book of Isaiah 34, it speaks about how this place is going to be so desolate. There's no way anybody's going to be able to inhabit it. And the only things that really are going to live here are those doleful creatures, owls, and creeping things like scorpions, and just a whole bunch of unclean things are going to be able to inhabit this area. No Egyptian's going to be able to pitch tent here or make money off of this place. It's going to be a monument of disaster and what happens when you disobey Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And also what happens to the people who have hurt the people of the Heavenly Father, the apple of his eye. This is all because of the controversy of Zion. So this is why this place is going to get judged in this manner. So I'm continuing on, verse 2. So I'll give verse 4. It says, the appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so shall they run. Now right here in verse 5, it's speaking about horsemen. And the breakdown here, so if you go into right here in Revelation 9 and 16, you read a little bit up in other parts of the chapter, it speaks about how this world war is going to end. Even in Revelation 6, it speaks about how the elites are going to go into the mountains to hide from the wrath of the Lamb. So all these things are basically being made upon tables. We're speaking this prophecy, and really this is the alarm being sound through this video. So as it's speaking about horsemen here in Joel 4 and 5, let me see, I'm going to get this in Revelation 9 and 16. So this is in Revelation 9 and 16. It says, already from right here. All right, it says, and the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. And so it's basically saying there's going to be 200 million missiles launching at this place. And you look at what's happening in the news, well, that's why you got the prophets of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai to be watchmen to sound this alarm, because we have been speaking about these things. And for a while, people were scoffing at us because we always had the signs of the thermonuclear missiles, the ICBMs. But then you turn on the news or listen to what we're saying, we're speaking about biblical prophecy. Russia is just enhancing their missiles to the point where they're hypersonic, meaning that whatever Esau has here for missile defense, it ain't going to budge. And that's how many missiles are going to destroy this place. 200 million. And this is the Lord's army. They are as horsemen in the sky. The glittering sword that's coming out of the ground and bathed in the heavens before it lands into this place. But I'm going to continue on. Verse 17, it says, and thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone. And brimstone is one of the ingredients, the elements that is required to use a thermonuclear missile, so that it activates the fusion and it explodes, causing that fervent heat. A fire not blown, it's going to kindle and destroy this place. So this is just indicators to let you know that this is speaking about the ICBMs. And then continuing on, it says, and the head of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouth issued fire and smoke and brimstone. And that is representative of when those missiles get shot out of the silos, that fire and that pillar of smoke that's coming out of it. And so you have to understand too, when John the Revelator was seeing this, he was basically just grasping it to the best of his ability and then putting it on pen, putting it on paper. Like if you can imagine describing a lighter to a caveman, it's very hard to do. But then it's the other way around, where this person who received this vision is giving us the vision, and then we can see plainly upon tables that it's speaking about that great and dreadful day known as World War III that is spoken about in the scriptures. So I'm going to go back into the book of Joel 2. And so I'm going to read from verse 4 again. It says, "The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. Before their faces, so like it says, before their face of the people shall be much pained, all faces shall gather blackness." Because when people see those missiles, and you can see various movies where they show that scenario play out, where people are just living their day, going about regular business as usual, but then you get the sirens and the text message on everyone's phone saying you got about 60 minutes to go hide into a bunker because the missiles are coming. And we actually had that happen over there in Hawaii when they had a supposed false missile crisis. A lot of these people were bugging out, but we actually had a brother over there in the Hawaii branch of Great Millstone preaching and prophesying when that was happening. He had like about 1,000 views when he went live that day. So I'm going to continue on in verse 7. It says, "They shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war, and they shall march every one on his way, and they shall not break their ranks." And this is basically just how these things are going to be shot. They're going to be hitting what their target is. In verse 8 it says, "Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk every one in his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded." And if you read this in the NLT, kind of gets a more understanding of this, because it's speaking in militaristic jargon. But if you read this in the NLT, it says, "They never jostle each other. Each moves in exactly the right position. They break through defenses without missing a step." So you can see that the spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is behind those missiles. They're not going to break their ranks. They're not going to miss. They're not going to, what is it called when a missile doesn't shoot? Operation Broken Arrow or whatever. Someone's not going to steal these missiles. All these missiles are going to be sent out to destroy this place. None of them are going to break their ranks, because it's by the power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai that he's orchestrating these artilleries. This is in 2 Ezra 16 and 13. "For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss, when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world." Just to show you that these is not talking about a regular everyday archery with bows and arrows. This is speaking about those thermonuclear missiles. Verse 14, "Behold, the plagues are sent, and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled, and shall not be put out, till it consume the foundation of the earth." Just like I was reading this in the verse chapters, it's going to be just like the Garden of Eden. You got flourishing people, or even amongst the cities, people going about their usual business, but then that missile is going to hit, and it's going to be fire kindling. So in verse 15 it says, "The fire is kindled and shall not be put out, till it consume the foundation of the earth. Like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon earth shall not return again." Just because Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is the one who's shooting these missiles for the controversy of Zion, which I'll get into those precepts in a little bit. But I'm going to read this in verse 9. Back in Joel 2 and 9, it says, "They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run up the wall. They shall climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief." And because the element's going to melt with fervent heat. When those missiles hit this place, that blast radius is basically just going to enter every orifice, nook and cranny, building and person, even the subway systems and sewers, because he had people trying to hide in those things. No, ultimately, nobody's going to survive these thermonuclear missiles. It's going to just engulf this place, very similar to when the flood happened. No one survived except those who were on that boat, that ark, with Noah and his family, representative of the elect in that time. But it's pretty much just the same thing. It's just that this time it's not going to be with water. It's going to be with fire. And I'm going to read verse 10. It says, the earth shall quake before them, the heavens shall tremble, the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. And I'm just going to stop here, because right there, that's basically a lot of what was being spoken about pertaining to thermonuclear missiles and hitting this place, Babylon, just deserving. But I'm going to stop here in verse 10, because this is a precept going into Isaiah 13. And like I said already, this chapter is very beautiful, and it goes into that. It goes into how this place is going to be destroyed with the thermonuclear missiles. Just as Sodom and Gomorrah was overthrown, the same way Babylon is going to be overthrown. But just to showcase that this is speaking about that same event that's going to happen in the future, Isaiah 13 and 10. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. Because when those missiles hit, it makes a big mushroom cloud, and it's going to be like the heavens are rolled in like the scroll. And also the fallout, the pushback that those missiles are going to cause. It's going to cause a big turbulence in the air. It's going to be a lot of soot and dust and ash everywhere. That if a person were to be standing in there, surviving, of course they're not going to, and if they look into the sky, they wouldn't be able to see further than where they're standing, because that's how great and dreadful the destruction is going to kick up the smoke and dust, confusion. Not going to be able to see the sun, the moon, the stars. But just like it was spoken about here in Joel 2 and 10, a precept to that is in Isaiah 13 and 10. And all of this, to finish off this video, is because of the controversy of Zion. Esau Edom has done a great sin by, one, breaking the everlasting covenant, and also changing the ordinance of the things down here. He turns what's right wrong and wrong right. And that basically has a price to pay. But also because of when specifically he came here to the Americas, he went pretty much, well, I'll say it like this. He saw that the Northern Kingdom was here, because he had foreknown that when he sent Christopher Columbus over here, and he enslaved the Taino people who were in the Puerto Rican islands. And then when they saw that these people were easy to dominate and conquer, because that says, thus saith him himself in his diaries, that these people were very easy to kill and slaughter, that he couldn't even put his sword down. You know, see, Esau Edom's shameful spewing is going to show up now. Not all these people are privy or hip to what this devil is doing now, because shameful spewing has happened. The Heavenly Father has lifted up his skirt. Now everybody can see that this devil's got horns and a little devil tail also. But I'm going to read this in Numbers 35 and 33, because this is what this devil did here in America, known as Babylon. He basically slaughtered the innocents of the nation of Israel, starting with the Northern Kingdom. But then when that transatlantic slave trade started picking up, he also brought the Southern Kingdom here. And this is where Judah and Ephraim both served their captivity. And in Numbers 35 and 33, it says, So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. So you best believe this is going to be a recompense. This place is basically unclean, and it's something that hasn't been judged because of the blood that he shed here. And that blood is of the Israelites. So pretty much Esau effed up. And the last precept I want to read here is in Isaiah 34 and 8. It says, For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompense for the controversy of Zion. Because that's why he's doing this, to recompense, to serve justice to us, so that we are delivered out of the captors and then the Esau Edom gets judged, and he delivers justice. But with that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Ruach HaKodesh, Shalom Akim.